public comments. So, item number 3. Agenda item 4A, Spring Creek Farms plat approval request. Anyone have anything to say? Mark, where are we?
They did send a new plat. One of the things that was not on there was the common space owned and maintained by the homeowners association. I've got an electronic copy that I've got pulled up on the screen that does have that. So this is the copy that we don't have this is the one we don't have a paper copy yet, but this is the one that we would sign, the one with item number 6 on it. It's not on that paper copy that's on the table. And then we have a gentleman here that's involved in the HOA for this project to answer any questions that anyone has.
I'm Glenn Blasingame with Benchmark Realty. I'll be doing the marketing and selling of the homes in Spring Creek Farms, and this is Rodney Reston with Acclaim Property Management, and he will be managing the HOA. So if there's anything that we can answer, any questions you might have, we should try to answer them.
And I have the CCRs pulled up. Both Todd and Jim have reviewed the CCRs. Welcoming comments, Jim.
Could you review the process from when it changes over from the land developer to the homeowners?
Yes, we are going to, it's in the documents. And it is, well, it's in there, find it, I'm sorry. It's going to be at 100%, and the reason why the developer is asking for that is basically so that the homeowners don't get control and change the architectural standards and try to make them more, restrictive on him as far as, changing the floor plan, the square footage, all brick, things like that. This happened to a developer out in Mount Juliet several years ago in phase 1. Transitioned the association to homeowners control, and they tried to increase the architectural standards as a minimum, and therefore construction came to a halt, and that's never a good thing. So developers just asking for control until 100% is complete.
Is this the section you're looking for here under Class B?
Class B, yes sir. Yes sir, thank you. It's Article 4, Section 2, Class B control.
So 100% of the entire development?
Yes, sir. Now, he does have the ability to convert. It does give him a deadline of 2025 in order to, inspire the project that we complete. But he can transition at any time, obviously. I think the biggest thing is, like I said, is making sure that the homes are, as he's submitting them, are approved by this board, and that they can't come in and change. The homeowner can come in and try to make it more stringent on him.
Or vice versa, less stringent.
Yeah, or change the feel of neighborhood on those that own, and start allowing certain things to be done that would lessen or overall property values.
I don't guess we have any say in that, right?
You really don't. I mean, and of course, the flip side of what can happen too is the developer can decide, that it wants to change the standards of development, but they still would obviously have to comply with the zoning requirements if they decided to build a different product.
So more or less, the homeowners would have no say in anything until the subdivision is built out.
Correct.
If you want to decrease the square footage minimum or...
Right. And I've worked with several developers in Williamson County in the past, and in Murray County, and even in Leapers Fork. So, we will be be holding, we're required to have an annual meeting for the homeowners every year. It gives the homeowners the opportunity to voice their concerns, questions, and things like that.
But they don't have a say. They have a voice.
They have a voice, but
not a
yeah,
say.
yeah.
Well, but after, and correct me if I'm wrong, but after they start to sell out, if everybody signs off on the restrictions per se, they don't.
Not the way it's written. It's 100% his until it's done.
When they agree,
The way it's written.
when they agree to purchase, they basically are accepting these, restricting the use rights in here.
I'd say most buyers don't understand that.
I just want to know where, looking at this, where the cemetery is.
Yeah, I think we talked about that at the last meeting, to actually show the cemetery on the plat. And I believe it's below where the swimming pool's gonna go, or west, I guess, of the common area right there. But I'm not positive on that, but I do, if it abuts or touches phase one, I do think we discussed actually showing the cemetery, on the plat.
Wasn't the pool and the building supposed to be on the survey too, or?
We had discussed that, but I don't know that we had a final answer. The engineer said that he should have plans, a site plan, elevations, plans and specs on the
It's-
community center pool by this
It's
meeting.
probably within, just looking at it, it's probably within this common area.
Well, we know that.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's a dog leg. I think it's a little offset right there, but I think we did discuss at the last meeting to actually show it on the plat as a cemetery. And I guess because if it's a button common area, we wouldn't have to show access to it if it's accessible through the common area.
Yeah, but I think you would want that to be clear on the plat, if that is where, I mean, again, I don't know that you want to be guessing exactly where the cemetery is, but you're right, I think if it's shown in the open area and there's clearly access to it, you don't have to show.
Or maybe put a notation on the plat that the cemetery has access to the general public, not specifically.
I have one of those in Founder's Point. It's actually Abram Murray's historical family cemetery in the middle of Founder's Point in Franklin up in 96. So yeah, that's public access, and we had even helped maintain it for the family because it's historical. And the cemetery is maintained by the city.
It's maintained by nobody, most likely.
It's just a family cemetery that was there.
Has any descendants of the family
Not that I know.
any
think- I don't think
historical
any-
values at all?
I wasn't pulled up.
Historical value.
Oh, well, yeah, no. Okay.
I will tell you, that was the first voting place out there, that house that was torn down for this area when it was Bedford County for this district. That was the Widow Fest, I believe. I believe that's what it was at that time.
I was just more curious because, like I said, the Abrams family, we know some of the descendants, they helped fund the Williamson County Historical Help Fund and the HOA put money up to, restore. We have a stone wall, a gate, and some trees that are very large, and there was some damage. And so we all got together as a group and to fix and preserve the cemetery for everybody. So that's why I was just asking. Something to work forward on.
Anything else on this?
Well, I did want to, Jim, if you could.
I just wanted to, my first question was on the transfer, because I've never seen 100% before, so I wanted you to explain the rationale. My only concern with it is that when the land developer has 100%, that if the market turns in a way that's not going to be conducive to selling the homes he or she originally intended, then they can swap it over to double wides. That's my concern, and that can happen when the homeowner has 100% of the homeowners association.
With the homeowner or?
I'm sorry, when the developer,
He could
developer has
change.
100%.
If he has 100% control, he can change
The standards, so that.
which double wides are or are not allowed in R3. I think they are on a permanent foundation.
I think they are.
They are. They have all the protections of a stick-built home under Tennessee state law, as many of us know. But, I have seen this issue in other communities that I've worked for, and it has never worked out well. That's my concern with it. But
He was
as,
here last time we talked about.
He had discussed 60%, 50%.
50%.
Yeah.
It's normally 75 to 80% is typical is what it is, and if that's an issue, I'm sure he'd be glad to change it. It's
What would you prefer? Of course, he's gonna prefer more control and longer. And to answer your question, or just to, about the mobile homes, he's not gonna make any money on mobile homes.
Well, double wide.
Yeah, well, even double wides, he won't make any money on double wides because they're prefab. He'd make a little money on the lot, of course.
Right.
But, so that won't happen, but I know you're concerned if it's not right, it didn't.
Right.
It doesn't matter, but it's not gonna behoove him to do anything like that.
We do have a development in this area where something similar happened,
It
so,
happens everywhere.
yeah. It's got a lot of,
And it wasn't the original developer, it's always the second guy or the third guy.
yeah, it's got a lot of, and they're not double wides, they're,
They're all frame
modulars, yeah.
Well, one thing you do have is you have a local builder. He's not Marshall County, but he lives in Williamson County. And he builds a really good product. I've known him for about 10 years. And he actually built my house, did a remodel for me. So he takes pride in his work, and he's going to, sign his name to it. So he's going to put out a quality product.
Todd, what do you have? And Mark, you had it up just a second ago, that section 6 of Article 10.
In
This
the
is in
CCR.
the CCRs. Just want the commission to be aware of what they have put in the covenants with respect to maintenance of open space.
What article did you say?
I'm sorry, Article 10, Section 6.
I'm missing.
It's, yeah, the pages are numbered, so I think it's up, yes, above the exhibits there. That's probably it down at the bottom there. Yeah. I don't know if you can zoom in on that or not, but it basically brings the town in to enforce maintenance of the open space. It does provide that if the town comes in and does maintain that area, that any cost may be assessed against the property owners. The problem I see with this structure is that instead of the town enforcing any of its costs of maintenance against the HOA and then them collecting it from the property owners, this seems to imply that the town would have to assess each individual property owner within the subdivision for the maintenance of the open space. And, this isn't binding upon the town necessarily, but I also don't know that it's a good way for the maintenance of the open space to take place. I think the maintenance of the open space should be that of the responsibility of the HOA. And if the town has an issue, that it would enforce that against the HOA, and the HOA would have to then collect from the property owners, which they have the right to do under these covenants. So I would request that language be amended to
Rewritten.
make it clear that the HOA is responsible for the maintenance of the open space, and really you can delete the provisions with respect to the town, because it's going to enforce its codes as they're written.
So you would prefer the town language out of there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just should be written, and I didn't prepare an example, but I mean, I think what it should basically say is that the maintenance of the open space is responsible of the homeowners association, and any cost of such maintenance may be assessed against the property owners.
I was going to say, definitely, as the corporation, because this will be a corporation, obviously, that if something like that did happen, as long as I'm involved as a manager, if we got to that point, I would have to turn it over to an attorney and ask the judge to put it into receivership if, for some reason, everyone stopped paying their dues and there was no money to maintain it. But then at least I would have a court order from a judge in Marshall County saying that they will pay, and then we can put liens, start the whole foreclosure process, garnish wages, seize bank accounts. I've never had to do that in 18 plus years of business, but we've had to use that tactic. I don't want to say threaten, but we've had to be, you know, with the attorney that if HOA didn't do the right thing, it was going to go into receivership, and that affects everybody. But we do have that ability to do that.
Should the language be specific for the town to assess the HOA? The HOA assess the individual lot owners, but in the event that the HOA ceased to exist, the town would reserve the right to assess each and every homeowner.
Yeah, again, the town is not a part of this contract, even if the planning commission signs off on it. I mean, and so, this is an agreement between the property owners and the developer now, and then the HOA will be a party to it as well. But again, like I said before, the town will enforce its code against the owner of the property, which will be the HOA, and then ultimately, after 100% development, the property owners will be the HOA. So,
It's probably just best to strike all the language concerning the town.
I don't think there's any benefit to the town having any, I mean, if you want to put generic language in there that says, you know, the cost that may be assessed against the property owners include any penalties that are assessed by the town for, you know, failure to comply with its codes, that's fine, but that just gives you, the developer, more, I think, leverage, and then later, the HOA leverage to assess those additional costs.
Anything else?
Yeah, I got a couple of notes that we had discussed. We discussed the cemetery, the number 5 at the bottom under notes, where it says issuance of individual building permits will not be granted until individual sidewalks are installed. That should say individual certificate of occupancy or use and occupancy certificate. Just a typographical error. Instead of permit, it should, because they'll pour the sidewalks simultaneously with building the home.
Under notes on the plat.
Notice number 5. It
Exchange
says
building permits for certificate of occupancy.
Yeah, just where it says building permits, just strike that and add C of O or use and occupancy permit,
Yeah.
whichever. I don't know which one the city uses, but the county uses a C of O.
C of O.
So,
CO.
and the only other thing, and it looks like he's randomly shown it here and there. He's dotted a line around all the lots showing the 5-foot public utility and drainage easement, but he's only referenced it in just a spot or two. Could you have the surveyor or the engineer put a typical lot diagram on there and actually show what each type of hash line represents?
Up on the upper corner.
He has shown a dotted line, which is the 5-foot public utility and drainage easement along all the
You want
sidelines.
a lot legend.
A lot.
Well, there's one right here, but it doesn't.
It doesn't, that's just a
include
legend.
it.
Yeah, that's a legend for utilities. Just a typical lot diagram or cross section, showing that the dotted line closest to each real property line is the 5-foot public utility and drainage easement, or add a note that says all lots shall have a 5-foot public utility and drainage easement along all side lot lines and rear lot lines, because he's clearly shown the 20-foot PUDE on the front lines, and he's shown a dotted line on the sides and the rear, but he's only referenced that it's a public utility and drainage easement in just a spot or two. So if he could, just a typical lot section where it's very clear that the city and or any other utility company would have the right to utilize that space for public utility purposes.
Or is that different on that one that you have the email on?
No, that has to be added.
So all lots should have a 5-foot public utility and drainage.
Yes, and that would be added as a note,
Okay.
or just show a typical lot section, just a lot without a number, and show what the dotted line is, and the legend. And the only other thing we discussed, and he was fine with it, and they just failed to put it on here, all of the future phases that are shown on here, the roadways just need to be labeled future 50-foot right-of-way, not, I mean, they're showing
Future connection.
yeah, or just future ROW instead of 50-foot ROW.
Okay.
It could be construed, somebody could construe it that that's,
That was going to be built.
yeah, that the roads are already shown on the plat, so any roadways shown on here that are outside of section 1 just need to say future, either future Addison Avenue or future 50-foot right-of-way.
Anything else?
I did did want, and I mentioned this to Mark earlier, but as of the last time I checked, I guess right after I got these covenants, the homeowners association had not been established, and I would suggest that be established.
Before
The charter be
plat.
filed before the plat is recorded as well.
It's in the process right now, it's at the attorney's office.
Okay.
And it is in the CCNRs, it does say not to exceed a 10-foot wide path on both, so 5 foot on each side.
Yes.
So it does say that in the declaration
In the
also.
CCRs,
Yes, sir.
I think it'd be
Yes, sir.
good.
Yes,
for
to
the
have
city
it on the
first,
plat.
actually put it on.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
I thought it was in there, but just.
Yeah.
So Todd, you want the CCRs to be chartered before the plat is recorded?
The homeowners association needs to be that Spring Creek Farms Homeowners Association Inc. needs to be established, incorporated with Secretary of State's office.
Yes.
I'm assuming that the Exhibit B is written as it's intended, that just how it refers to open space is the way that there was an intent to make a more specific description of the property right now in the common area, but that this plat and each following plat will have open space and common area identified on them.
And I think the only other thing we discussed was either getting an as-built or a confirmation of the utility sizes shown on the plat, locations and sizes, because in one area they show a 2-inch force main. That's fairly uncommon that there's a 2-inch force main, but it could be that they put in a 2-inch force main if there's not a lot of customers on it.
That is correct. There's a little uphill area.
It is a 2-inch force main.
There's one, maybe 10 homes or something on that.
Yeah, it looks like lots 1 through 10, and 76 through 81.
Yeah,
And that's on the sanitary sewer.
yes.
And is a 2-inch gravity, okay?
It's a 2-inch.
For force main?
Yes.
Okay. So where's the lift station?
There's no lift station.
So is each home gonna have a pump like a step system?
Each home right there will have
Like a step
individual
tank.
pump, like a step tank, yes.
Okay, just on that section.
Just on that one section, they couldn't make gravity work on that one section up on the
Does that
top
need to be
side.
Should that be shown on the plat? I'm asking because if they can't do it without it.
Is that in this phase?
It's, along Lauren Lane, there's
Yeah.
a 2-inch force main, which kind of struck me as odd, because normally on a gravity system, everything is typically 4 inches or larger.
Yeah, it needs to be shown on the plat if it's part of this. I didn't realize that was part of this phase.
So can we just add a note for any specific lot that is gonna need a pump? Step tank, how do you wanna call that?
Just
Septic
pump.
tank effluent pump?
Yes, effluent pump will be fine.
Effluent pump. And I believe that's gonna apply, 10 and 76 can probably go out the side and hit the 8-inch gravity. So it'll apply for 1 through 9 and 77 through 81 and 100 and 129. Well, 129 could probably hit the 6-inch right there. That's kind of, is it a 6-inch water that's crossing that right there? Or
I'd
is it
have
a
to
sewer?
look at
At the main intersection when you pull in, I think that'd be a water line. But we did discuss that the original plat that was submitted, and he may still have it on here, I think it is, has a big long paragraph that says this may not be accurate. And I don't see that language a lot on plats, but he's not the one that put it in, so I know why he put it on there, but if it's not accurate, then I think an as-built would be in order, or some type of confirmation that the.
We had asked for a note for this last time, and I got everything here. Is there anything else? I'm gonna go over we're at the 10 changes. Okay. So there was a missing note, which has already been applied for note 6 for the sidewalks. That's already on the electronic version, but not on the print. We're looking for cemetery notation specifics. lower the developer's percentage for a transfer from the developer to the homeowners association. I'm personally recommending 80%. I mean, we don't have a say, we don't have a guideline, but that's where I have seen several in Nashville without much problem. Article 6, Article 10, Section 6, that to eliminate the language that brings the town in as a de facto party or a real party to that contract. It's not going to work for us. Note 5 is to change the term building permit to CO. Number 6, we're looking for a lot legend, a diagram, or note that clarifies the utility easements on all the lots, which will be 5 feet in width. For the right-of-way that is yet to be built in the future, to denote it with the word future. Number 8, we are asking that the articles of incorporation be chartered with the Secretary of State before this plat is recorded, and we would need to have proof of that. Number 9, we need to have a note stating that as-built will be submitted to the city in a timely manner after everything is built out. And 10, for all the homes so affected with effluent pumps, it should be clearly noted on the plat that they will have such effluent pumps.
And I think if the cemetery is within phase 1, that it should be shown on the plat.
Regarding the pump septic tanks, I know, 4, maybe 5 months back, something was changed in the city where the city controls and maintains the septic tank.
It hadn't changed, we're talking about
Okay.
it, but
Well,
nothing's
if-
been.
If that changes, could you omit any electronic components of the pump? If they burn up a pump by not being user-friendly, I personally don't think the city should be in the business of replacing people's pumps, due to ignorance.
That's one of
My
the-
opinion.
That's one of the,
Who figures out ignorance?
It's your job.
Ain't mine.
There was one city I worked for, in a period of 1 month, a 4-year-old flushed 9 t-shirts down the toilet.
And that'll shoot.
And the
that'll
pump
burn up
was
the
changed
pump.
3 times at the cost of $1,300 each to the taxpayers of the city.
Yeah.
That's what.
So
you're
if
talking about.
the city elects to maintain people's tanks so that you can know that you're not going to get settlement and solids down to or I down to the sewer plant, I think that amendment to your ordinance now would need to say that does not include the pump alarm or any mechanical parts of that tank.
Would it be helpful if we put that in our documents? That lots with effluent pumps,
I mean, since it
This is
hasn't
owner's
changed, that's
responsibility.
something we can handle in our ordinance.
I think so, yeah, because right now it's the homeowner's responsibility to maintain the tank. It's just something.
okay.
And the 2 other things that I don't know that we've discussed is the developer and/or the engineer was going to meet with or talk to the county highway department for the connectivity of the new city streets onto a county road, just to get his blessing and make sure he's okay with everything about the connection. And the maintenance bond amounts, were we going to outsource that to
We're
a private?
working on that right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
They've been submitted and they're being evaluated.
Okay, yep.
So can you say that again about connectivity? Who do you want the developer to
This is
talk
what
to?
we talked about last time. This is it's unorthodox that we have a city subdivision coming out onto a county road, so we wanted some sort of notification from the county, with correspondence from the developer, letting them know that this was going to happen. That,
And to make sure he's okay with it.
Yeah, and what their response is to be filed with the city.
Yep. And that's the Marshall County Highway.
And he's probably
Department.
already, we talked about that at length, he's probably already working on it.
Okay. One other thing, I've just summarized your notes. What was number 5?
Number 5 was changing building permit to CO in note 5.
Okay.
So that brings it to 11 with some sort of recognition from the superintendent of roads for the county.
Sure, yeah.
And we had discussed the common areas at great length about, say, in a site plan or some type of rendition of the clubhouse and pool, but I don't know that we can require anything, but we had a discussion at the last meeting that the drawings, renderings, and a site plan of some kind would be submitted just for us to view what his master plan is, I guess you would say.
For the pool.
For the pool and any other improvements, playground, anything that he intends to do in the near future.
He had indicated he was
He said he was gonna go ahead and do it.
First phase, so I don't know if that's in writing anywhere, but
Well, with those stipulations, they're all easily verified by Mark or myself, and therefore I would offer a recommendation to accept this with those stipulations and conditions to be satiated before it gets the last signature from the city.
You've heard our recommendation from our planner. Do I have a motion?
And your notes did include finalizing and accepting all the bond requirement amounts to financial securities.
That goes with almost without saying, because they're gonna have to do it no matter what.
I'll make a motion.
I'll say it
I have a motion and a second.
with
The
the
stipulation.
10 or 11 or 12 stipulations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Most definitely.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
Congrats.
Thank you. And if we get you documentation of all this correspondence changes, then do we have to wait for you to meet again?
I don't think so.
No,
As
you
long
don't.
As long as somebody with the city.
As long as we get it from Mark.
That's right.
Just gotta have the people available for the correct signatures.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
We're gonna move on to 4B, approval of the co-op general store sign. Brian?
had to wait for all that.
It's all right.
I will say that Brian and I have been trying to get a sign worked on for quite some time, and they've been through quite a bit to get the sign approval, and it's changed a couple of times. So hopefully we can come to some kind of.
If anybody's looking for a sign company to work on the sign for you, I can tell you who not to use.
If you are willing to take what your plan that you've presented and make it a pole sign with the upper limit not to exceed 20 feet, it will get automatic approval.
Okay. I've got one rendering of that exact thing.
You know, I've got what was sent to us up on the TV.
Yeah, because that didn't meet the standards
It's
for
just
monuments.
minus the rock plus a pole. And I had him to just draw it.
And the height is 12.
It could be, what is it, 8 or 9. We weren't really, when I fired the second sign company,
I'd love to hear the list.
all along I wanted this kind of sign because it matches every other sign on that side of the road.
Yeah.
And I didn't want us to put in a big gaudy tall pylon sign that, quite frankly, if something goes wrong with it and I can call Clint to come work on it, Clint can't work on it. He can't work on that drawing right there without a lift truck or something. But he could work on the monument sign. The first two companies didn't want to design monument sign. They didn't like it. I think it's because a pole sign probably requires more money. After we got approval last time for something that looked very similar to this, and got with Cook's sign company out of Tullahoma, I said, hey, he was out there that same day. I said, hey, can you do a sign like the Fast Pace has? He says, yeah, I can do that. I said, well, draw me that, just do that. That's what I'd rather have. And I never in my wildest dreams imagined it would be, honestly, a problem. I'll attribute it some to ignorance on my part. I just looked at all the rest of them down through there. It was like 9 signs in a row that looked like that. So that's all I was going to do right there. But yeah, we can put it on a pole. We can put it a foot high, 2 foot high.
If that's what you want to submit, then I would recommend that it meets the stipulations for the city and I recommend approval.
Let me just say that, in this process, we passed this sign ordinance, which, states some specific things that apply to monument signs that did not used to apply to monument signs. So that's kind of where we're at, and that's, why they were thinking that one would be okay. And turns out that it doesn't comply with a couple of things that's in our ordinance. I just wanted to point that out. That that's another thing they've had to deal with is us
Does it
passing.
apply now?
Yes, but not,
Okay.
not as a
The
monument
pole,
sign.
the pole sign does, but the monument sign does
The
not.
original, but that, what he's submitted here does work.
Our whole
So is this what you're
purpose-
gonna do?
That was an, Mark asked me to have an option up on a pole.
So
Yeah,
the monument sign's more attractive.
well, the monument
But
sign,
not the way he wants to do it. It's more of a, we want the horizontal ones, not the
Not
vertical.
the tall
ones.
skinny.
well,
Right.
there's a couple of things that it don't work with what's written in our, this prohibits monument signs from being internally lit, at all. So any monument sign could not have a message board that changed its message. It'd have to be externally lit. So that's the biggest hurdle, in compliance with our ordinance.
And that only applies to monument style signs.
That's correct.
Pole sign is allowed to be internally lit.
Yes.
And if it helps for clarification, the specs on the body of that sign were taken off of the fast-paced sign. So that's how big that sign is. Whether it's on a pole or on a monument basis.
You have my recommendation?
Can make
Is
a
that all
motion to
right with
pass it?
I'm confused about what you're asking.
I'm sorry,
for.
before you make a motion,
Yeah.
if I don't want that 12-foot tall, and I want to put it, say, on a 2-foot pole,
No.
is that okay?
That's not a pole sign anymore. That's a monument style sign. It's too far. I mean, my recommendation for approval is based off of that plan. What
So
you
it has to
said.
be that.
If that's what you're
that
gonna
high.
submit, and you're allowed to change your plans, but that's what I'm going to recommend approval on, what was in my hands a few minutes ago.
So the 12 foot would be to the top of it.
And the monument sign it has drawn originally will not meet.
No,
the
it's just,
sign.
it's mostly what Mark said, they're supposed to be externally lit, not internally.
That was original. It's the same thing, just not on the
Yeah.
pole. Right there, if you want.
Yeah, this is the original. It just doesn't meet the criteria.
Mark, are you we're gonna look at pole sign definition?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to.
This is just a question, if an ordinance is
Pylon
changed,
sign will be pole sign.
if an ordinance is changed and it's a pre-existing building, before the ordinance is changed, if he wants to change the sign, he has to comply with.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Would this have worked when the building was originally built? The Walmart, yes or no?
No, what we have is a bunch of non-conforming signs. That's why we took on this ordinance in the first place.
Gotcha.
Is we needed to say once and for all what we were gonna be doing.
Freestanding sign with visible support structure.
It doesn't specify,
Your definition that
Any
applies
length.
that sign is ground sign on that document.
This would be a ground or monument sign.
But you're used interchangeably in the ordinance.
Yes.
but the pole sign doesn't specify a height in the ordinance.
No, but it does have the maximum for
It does.
zoning
Maximum,
district,
yeah.
which is what I referred to from the beginning.
So it can't exceed whatever that is.
Would he have the right to request a variance to conform to everything else that's already there?
No.
No?
They don't work that way.
Okay.
If it only has a maximum, then why? I'm not trying to help you find a loophole, but I mean, then why don't we have a minimum?
No one ever asked.
Well,
It's not a pole.
I guess in that raises it.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
this sign's gonna look better if it's shorter.
Yeah.
I'm trying to,
I mean, and I know mine's not near as nice as this one, but it was what we could afford.
Yeah.
And we had just put this stuff into place, so.
Well, then moving forward, if you start adopting, landscaping ordinances, you're gonna run into, if you have a bunch of pylon signs, you're gonna run into with what you got in inner city Franklin, where you got a bunch of 12-foot tall signs, and everybody's been forced to plant oaks and maples out on the right of way, and you can't see the $25,000 sign at all. That's why everybody in Franklin, I don't know what the codes did, but all the new signs in Franklin are on monument, shorter signs like what's down the corridor down here. It's kind of why I wanted to, I felt like it's going that way. We're gonna
And you
have-
don't want to externally light it, you want to.
Well, you can't if it's got the thing on it, he's wanting the message. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
you
assuming.
can have the message defined as internally lit.
It was set up to be.
Like definition,
Like what's on the
that
school
would
sign.
be,
And not to allow the digital.
that would be a
So you have to change that and allow it,
Yeah.
I don't think.
but it might be better than allowing the.
I already told some notes earlier today.
Because it's not flush.
The one he wants to do is more attractive in my
Not by
opinion,
these definitions.
but it don't fit what we approve, so
But either way, I mean, that one would be, that one's not internally lit.
What's the mark on a sign permit? If someone submits a sign application for a permit and it clearly complies with
Which one do you
the
want?
regulations, does it come to the planning commission? Or
This is the first one that has come to the planning.
It should come to the plan,
Because it-
because it's commercial
Yeah, and it
property.
stipulates in this ordinance that it's to be approved by the planning.
Okay, that's what I was
Yes.
asking. I didn't know if, again, if you had an application that clearly complied, if you can approve it internally or not.
the only other thing you do is do away with the stone and put it on a short pole.
Well, that's what he asked.
I would drive. That's what-
I don't know how short though, I mean, it's only, well, it's,
And.
Well,
it's 8 foot, so it's only 4 foot shorter than the 12 foot sign. If your pediment is 2 foot, which it may not be, it may only be about
To
20
figure it
feet.
out.
It'd probably save you money to
We
do
were
that,
already
too.
done
What's that?
It'd probably
Short
save
pole.
money to do that.
Coordinates of stone and just put it on a short pole, but I don't know how, we don't have a minimum, we have a maximum, but we don't have a minimum.
Well, as far as getting away, making it to where it doesn't fit the definition of a monument sign, obviously there's no minimum for how high the pole is, but it does specify a monument sign is wider than it is tall.
Okay.
But then a ground sign, which, like I said, is the more appropriate definition for that.
It's
rendering,
taller than it is what?
There is no.
There is no, okay.
Yeah. Just a sign that's on the ground.
Well, hold on.
I guess, Todd, what can the planning commission legally approve is the question.
Well, with the current ordinance, I mean, it can approve a pole sign that meets all of the restrictions, and I don't know if what the maximum height is, or width, or setback from the right of way, but as long as it meets those, it can approve the pole sign for that. As far as the monument sign, I mean, what the planning commission could do would be to recommend amending the sign ordinance to allow lit ground or monument signs, and maybe change the dimension requirements so that that sign would be permissible as a, but then that has to go to the board for approval of an amendment to the ordinance. But I think this is an example, if the planning commission looks at what he's proposed that doesn't comply and says, well, we do like this better than having a pole sign like that, then maybe that's what should be done. But he's entitled to, as Jim said, I mean, he's entitled to build the pole sign now,
We'd have to change the rules to allow
to
the,
allow the ground or monument sign, yeah.
being internally lit.
Yeah.
I am gonna say something about this one though, because I was telling him I've been driving in the place I had no idea where I was going. And the signs were so small in Charleston that we could not see them. Because we drove past one and then you've got to turn around and go back. So when you look at a 6-foot pole, again, I mean a sign versus a 12-foot sign, you're gonna get more out of this one. Just saying.
Does the new ordinance have any provisions regarding like a pedestal or landscaping around the pole sign?
No, I don't believe
So
so.
you put stone on your pole, you put stone veneer on your stick.
The other one did, I got that.
I mean,
Yes.
or stone up to a wainscot. I think this shit,
Sir, are you not willing to build that one there? That's not what you want, the one with the pole?
I am perfectly willing to build just this. So this sign from here up, that sign is sitting in a warehouse with our name on it. That's already built. If I have to put it on a 6-foot pole, I'm gonna put it on a 6-foot pole. Just so long as at some point in the future, you know, if there's 30-year-old oak trees, you know, or 30-foot tall oak trees going up and down the corridor there, and, you know, being on a pole's not helping anything at all. You know, it's gonna have to be changed. You know, it frustrates me to no end going through Franklin, trying to look for a business, and you can't see anything, and much less limbs scraping your car as you drive down the main road.
Are we requiring that?
No, but I look at codes like this and I see Breckenwood written all over it, and Franklin, Williamson County written all over it, and I see this is the way that it's going. And it's a beautiful way to have a town, don't get me wrong, but
There's still issues. There's still room for improvement.
there's room for improvement. And from Commerce side, with Amazon eating everybody's lunch, we need all the help on the retail side that we can get. You know, we've got 460 foot of road frontage out there, so a tall sign for us with 460 foot of road frontage was a necessity, and this sign being more attractive is kind of how we came up with that. So if this is what I can get approved today, I'll be happy to take that, and I'll say thank you for it.
I think that's all we can legally approve today.
Correct.
Now, just a question, if that's a pole sign on a metal stick, I don't think that there's any reason why you couldn't put some stone veneer around the bottom to refoot it, maybe some planters for some small shrubbery. I think you could give that sign a similar look to this, even though it's still gonna be protruding higher.
And you're sticking to that it has to go up to the 20 feet, even if.
It doesn't have to go up, that's the maximum.
That's just a maximum.
So
Well,
then
so you
could
pull
you
it
take
down.
it, pull it down like you were?
I guess I need a little clarification. From the ordinance, the maximum that would apply to us says individual cost pay. Now, I don't want to go 20 feet, don't get me wrong, but I'm just trying to be able to read and understand this document here. On the ordinance side, is it 300 feet or more of property frontage of commercial property? It says maximum area of 65 feet of sign space, and the maximum height and width of individual case spaces. Was the ordinance actually?
So it's open, you could shrink it, I think.
That's correct.
But that's not what
Will
I
it?
read.
Yeah.
So,
Could we approve it shorter?
It's as long as we can call it a pole sign, we can
If you
approve
can write,
anything.
if you can write a length on that of what you want to pole, I think we could pass it as amended by,
What height are you thinking?
I mean, this right here is probably 2 foot or less.
the sign body is 5 foot and 10 inches, so call it 6 feet. So you really want to talk about a 6 foot pole?
Could have done it 4 maybe.
I'm thinking, if you're gonna have enough to have it called a pole sign, I'm thinking you need to at least have 3 or 4 feet under it.
That's what I
And
was
I don't, I mean, we're probably
A
over
4
10
foot,
feet.
I'm happy with a 4 foot.
That's about this tall, isn't it?
This is 30 inches, table height is 30.
30?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right there.
So that'd be about 40.
And of course, it's sitting, back off the road a little bit in a little higher elevation. So it's-
And the city would have no objections.
No,
to
just don't put it where you can
No
call it.
landscaping around it?
Right.
Yeah, if you wanted to do or veneer
Put some
around the
stone
bottom
veneer
like
around the
that,
bottom.
Yeah, more power to
as
it.
long as we can call it a pole sign.
We want it to look good.
Right.
We want it to be attractive.
I think they could mix the two and still call it a pole sign.
As long as it's not up there where you can't see pulling in now.
Yeah, that's what
No,
he's
it's-
talking about.
That's
We want
the
to
only
step
thing
back a
I'm
little
talking
further.
Then I'm gonna amend my recommendation to have the pole go as low as 4 feet. But no less.
Okay, we have his recommendation. Do we have a motion?
I will make that motion as specified.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Any other business?
Yeah. Maple Street, I thought we done talked about them bringing this dirt and stuff in, and pond rock and stuff out on Maple Street there, where they're filling in between them two-store houses down here.
On Carolyn's place.
Who?
Carolyn's property.
Yeah, yeah. I thought we,
I didn't know they could bring in.
you got something else?
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to kick you out.
That's quite all
You
right.
stayed around, I don't care.
I do want to say thank you for the
Visuals.
well, I don't know what that, no, it's the thing you wipe your feet on. It has helped me tremendously. It's,
On the,
it traps all the stuff
Yeah.
down in there. It's wonderful.
Guys, I have another meeting, I gotta get going to
You
it.
got any samples? You got any
I might.
samples, what you got?
It's an outdoor
Y'all
event.
take care.
I love
Thank
it.
you. See you
See you
later.
guys.
See you.
Bye-bye.
on Maple Street. I think we talked about this several times.
We deal with the lower two lots, western two lots.
Yeah.
The lower one,
We had, was it only one?
just the one.
I thought we did too, but the lower lot, I was under the impression that we requested that he built the house up so the house wouldn't flood, but then move dirt around within the lot so that any water he's pushing away from the house, he's pushing to another area on
Well,
the
what y'all
lot.
need to do, y'all need to ride down
Oh,
Maple
I-
Street and look at that.
I was down it when it flooded back.
No, I ain't talking about flooding
he's
now.
like
I'm
flooding.
talking about chunk rock, look like they cleaned out a pond and throwing in between them two houses and build another house on top of it.
There is, once again, according to our ordinances, there is nothing that we can do about that. It is not in our floodplain ordinance to, I mean, if somebody wants to bring in dirt on a lot that's not in the floodplain, they can.
Okay,
And
all
that's
right.
not in the floodplain. And in order to designate it as a flood area, it has to be based on an engineering study. It's not something that we can designate on our own. No, it don't matter if we,
But
know
then what
that does or
happens
not.
if water that was not on somebody else's lot is now on somebody
Well,
else's?
let me answer this, because probably 6 months ago, but we beat to death what we called critical lots, and they were lots that we know are prone to flood, but not necessarily shown in the 100-year FEMA floodplain. The county, if the county knows of an area that's prone to flood and not in the floodplain, they actually require that they put a note on the plat that says no fill material will be allowed in the low-lying areas without proper permitting from Marshall County. In our case, we could say without proper permitting from the city. And I think we could do that and tag it only to critical lots. Being, we discussed before, lots that we know and we have seen have been underwater. If they're gonna build fill material up, they're pushing that water to somebody else.
But the only question I got is that I don't know who the people are in that double wide trailer right beside that house. They done filled dirt up about that high. Now all that water's gonna come across the road, but where's it going? It's going to her. Now what's her what's her recourse
I do
to come
think,
back on the builders?
I do think there is a state law that says you cannot increase or decrease the natural water flow pre-construction versus post-construction. So if she could prove, if she had a video from before, video from after, I think it would be a civil matter between two property owners. But if you can prove that someone either dammed up water that you're relying on or pushed more water on you post-construction than you had pre-construction, then I think the state law actually allows one individual to sue another individual for damages.
It's hard to prove, but
You'd almost have to have videos, but I've new developments in Franklin when they're putting houses stuck together.
I'm so sure there's videos of it.
Now, to your,
I would say if she could prove that her situation now is much worse than when they built them houses.
Well, I don't know who lives there, was a he or her. I don't know who lives there. But she
It's
come to
Rick's.
me, I'd go on a stand and swear to God, I seen that thing flood.
I think it would be
And it's gonna all get on her, it's not gonna, or him, it's not gonna get on them. And that's the first thing gonna pop us in the butt, people.
Well, I think right now it's a civil matter, but I do think specific to critical lots, if we know an area floods, and we've discussed this in the past, I think we can require anything we want to be on the plat.
but I think what we need to do, and I think we discussed this when we were talking about the last time, is, we can take a map, identify areas that we've got, that we know flood, but then I think we also need to have engineers look at that area and say, we agree that these lots are critical lots and need to have, that way you've got some backup. if
Need to have some
somebody
type of
comes in and says,
engineering study,
that's in our floodplain ordinance.
but those lots aren't in the floodplain.
Right. This would exist.
Exactly. It says that we can also identify other lots that
Oh, it
are
does?
critical,
Okay.
but they have to be identified
To
by an engineering study. It's not,
police it, you have
right,
to.
it's not something that we can
Well, you
say,
would think
In
all
other
the
words, we're gonna pay this man over
engineering
here $250,
They would've
$300 an
identified.
hour.
Well,
What
To
would
do
they do?
engineer
they won't unless you pay them. Specifically.
Huh?
That's bottom line.
That's what it all comes
Hey,
to. Somebody's
engineer.
making money off of it, and we're screwing the people right here. Well, I didn't mean to say that. We are blanking the people here. Right in the rear end, what we're doing, and okaying this stuff, but I hate to keep spending money through engineer. I'm sorry. You cut
That's
it
just
off.
okay. I'm just going to give my code. I can't.
Well, I do think, and I don't know if we would have to amend something or if we just keep our eye on critical loss, but if we do, without it being color coded, if we know an area is prone to flooding, because we required that one lot have an engineer study on it. Now, I don't know what they studied, but we required that even though it wasn't in our ordinance because we knew that there was a flooding concern. We had neighbors.
Is
had
that
taken
still
pictures.
by the same developer or is it changed?
It changed. I believe the developer is not the builder. So you got the developer who just flipped lots up, and then I think someone else is building a house, and that gets kind of tricky as well because the builder just bought lots. He just bought a lot to build on. So I think that it should, if there were recourse, I think it should go back on the developer. But if the builder is doing something that the developer wouldn't like, then the developer could point the finger at the builder and said, well, I didn't tell him to build it up. But I do think we can identify.
But if you look, you went down that street, and look at what they brought in. Have you,
I haven't seen it recently.
when you leave here, so help me God, go through there and you look. They didn't clean out a pond somewhere and dump that stuff there.
It probably comes from Spring Creek, right?
I would imagine.
I don't know. It
Where'd it
could
come
come
from?
up there on Happy Hill, not Happy Hill, but on High Street behind that stuff behind it looks like it's stuff behind the water plant up there.
I'm not sure.
But it's ridiculous. I mean, we're messing people up.
Well, I agree that we can do something. I just don't.
Well, we beat this horse to
No,
death. That's all I need.
Again, I think we just take them out and say, okay, this is the area we think that's flood prone, and then have an engineer look at it and
Say yes.
confirm it, and then we say, okay, we've got this map. If somebody comes forward in the future to subdivide, we're gonna require them to put that on the plat.
Mark, do y'all have any drone footage from any of the recent floods we've had?
We got drone
We do.
footage of 1 in 18.
Because I mean, that may be good enough for an engineer to look at it and say, oh yeah, I recognize the problem.
We've got something else that's probably gonna be developed to the south end of town that's basically in the floodplain.
Past Rex is there. Yeah, I think it's sold. I don't know who bought it, but I think it's sold.
It's,
Well, my neighbor came and told me at the office that it sold.
It did sell.
Yeah.
it did
It's
sell.
sold.
Yeah, he said that people were putting a motel or something in
We've
there.
heard that, but that's, we don't,
I know.
That's the gossip.
It's about like at McDonald's.
at Country Diner, but I do know there's sinkholes there, and I do know it floods. It's the same kind of
Yeah, it does.
situation as down at Sean's property, the sinkhole there. Like, because it is designated floodplain.
I think it is.
too.
I think it is.
Because I remember that house.
Shut the highway
years
down.
ago, they built the
It's gotta
burn-
be.
But the
burn.
house itself is in flood.
It shut
plain,
the
but
highway down.
property is.
The only thing I can say though is there's
I
time
meant that house, the one,
that got more money.
yeah, not like the older one, but the one up front.
It is built with
Yeah.
an island built around it.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, yeah. They deserve it.
So, that's,
Anybody else got anything?
I do think that's something we can address though.
alright. Anybody else, if no one else has anything, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Right. That's good.